Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be taking a bunch of scraps and meat that we've had in the freezer for a while and grind it all down, all right? So I have deer, antelope, and elk that I'm going to be breaking down into strips, and some of it's already into reasonable chunks to throw through the grinder. I like strips over a lot of cubed sections of it like a lot of people do. It's easier to get it to just plop down in there and feed itself, so it's a lot less time consuming. All right, so I'm gonna start breaking down this shank, and then I got a tub over here that's got some bigger chunks of meat in it that we're gonna rip down into strips, and then we'll get into it. All right. I like to work with gloves. It's a lot less time consuming on the washing the hands before you touch things. You just get the ditch and keep going, all right? So this first piece that I'm gonna be cutting down is an elk shank. One of the things that we used to do is throw these in a crock pot and let it cook itself down, and all that connective tissue and the little bit of fat that is in these shanks would render out, and it would just leave you with pretty much like a pulled pork consistency. It was really nice. So I like to score down the bone. So you know how when you feel your shin bone, you feel that bone in the front? Pretty much the same thing we got going on right here, and that's what I'm cutting down, all right? Now, there are a lot of tendons and stuff in the shank. I would not be too concerned about it because you can rip it through the grinder. Tendon's not bad for you, all right? It's actually a really good thing to have in your diet. Now, I would not suggest doing what the Inuits do and just chewing on it. Your jaw is gonna get tired real quick, but you just grind it through a couple of times with it, and it's fine. Friggin', it's one of those things, like if you're already eating a lot of things that have, oh, why am I blanking on the name? Collagen. That's the word we're looking for, collagen. All right. If you're eating a supplement that has the collagen in it for yourself, just get in the tendons, take the bones, make bone stock out of it, kind of deal. Or not bone stock, bone broth. But yeah, it's not bad for you, especially when you grind it down. It's not that bad and you don't notice it, all right? So we're just gonna continue breaking this shank down. You're gonna want a pretty serious knife to get through some of these tendons. Like, I don't know, if you can see that white piece right there, that there is just straight up a big old piece of tendon, and it'll take some a good knife to be able to cut through it. See, there's that tendon I was talking about. That thing is just huge. But like I said, it'll grind down and you'll be all right. That's bone, that's bone. All right, so that's almost clean. Now, this isn't one of those things where you have to pick it clean kind of deal, but the more meat you get off the bone, the more meat you'll have in the end result. So take that into consideration when deciding how much you want to get into this, all right? This elk, I don't know if it's my wife's elk or my elk, but friggin', we were both successful in taking a cow elk while we were in Montana. A lot of this meat is from when the last year we were in Montana. So we moved back to Ohio in December of 22. All right. And in doing so, I still went out and hunted that year. And we were fortunate enough to take a couple animals. But we weren't able to have the time to process it down and do all the things that we normally do with it. All right. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. And throw those into that bin. But yeah, it's one of those things that I love doing. Being able to process down my own meat and stuff like that. And like, you don't have to be the hunter, all right? You can buy large muscle groups from the store, a butcher, anything like that. And in doing so, you can take it home and do whatever you want with it. You can take a pork shoulder and grind it down into sausage. That has a great ratio of fat to meat already. If you grind it well, you'll probably hit that 70-30 mark that you want for most sausages, all right? But it's a simple process, and it's one of those things that, like, it pays for itself down the road, all right? Because meat prices are astronomical. You could buy a whole chicken, a whole turkey, and do whatever you want with it, grind it down, because the prices for ground turkey, ground chicken is astronomical compared to buying the whole animal and breaking it down yourself, right? So just rip everything down into strips like you see me doing here. Now, you don't want it too big. You want it to still be able to fit down into the mouth of the grinder, but they do pretty well in that kind of strip length, all right? And you don't have to, in this part of it, you don't have to understand any of the anatomy, how the muscles break down, any of that stuff, all right? All you gotta know is how to put it into a large chunk and make it into a small chunk, all right? Some of this sinew and stuff you can cut off. We'll leave the meat. And that sinew is just the silver skin, all right? You can leave a good amount of it. The reason why I'm taking this off is because this stuff has started to turn grayish, and it's no longer a bright and vibrant thing, and it's going to make an off-putting taste in your grind, all right? So I'm going to continue to grind this, or not grind this, cut all these chunks down, and then I'll have you guys come back once I'm done with that, all right? Hey, so now we have processed down all of the meat that we have. I have about 15 to 20 pounds in this container here, all right? One of the things that I like to do real quick, just a tip, all right? So if you're processing from home, all right, we don't have a place to hang it up, let it bleed out, dry out, the whole 9 yards as the big processors can, all right? Now, you can create something that you can do all that in there, but most of this stuff was just freshly harvested and cut up into chunks and thrown in the freezer for to be dealt with later, right? So there's a lot of blood that is still in this, and if you're not able to get a lot of that blood out, that's where that gamey taste that everyone complains about comes from. So what I do in the bottom of this is I have like cooling racks in the bottom. The meat sits on top. That way everything's able to drain to the bottom a little bit. So we get more of that out of there, all right? But I have the 15 to 20 pounds of wild game meat there. And then I got about 5 pounds of pork butt right there in that bowl that are ready to go in the freezer. All right, we'll leave them in there for like 30 to 40 minutes kind of deal. And then after that, we'll be back to grind these things. All right, you don't want it to be completely frozen because we're not shaving ice meat. All right, but you want it to be a little bit stiffer and cool. All right, at the same time that I put this in here, I will put all the parts and pieces for the grinder in there at the same time. They'll all come out at the same time. That way everything stays cool. And I'll show you one of the tricks that I do to maintain a cool feeder, all right, and grinder. So we'll be back. All right, so we're ready to get grinding on all this stuff. So I took this shaft, the grinding material, and the shaft that turns inside. Sat those in the fridge for the same amount of time that I had all this meat sitting in there to cool it all back down. All right. One of the things that I was going to talk to you guys about for a trick is taking an ice pack when you think it's warming up and taking and securing it in place to keep it cold as you continue to grind. But we should be good for a little bit, so we're going to get started on this. Like I said before, the strips make it perfect to where you don't have to really use the plunger too often. You just want to make sure you keep feeding it. And then every once in a while you can use the tool to get it all shoved down in there nice. And like I said, it's literally just a bunch of elk, deer, and antelope meat, and you can grind it all together, all right? It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, they all have similar or not so similar tastes, but for the most part, it's all red meat. You could throw goose in your mix if you wanted to. There's a multitude of different ways you could go about this, all right? So I'm going to continue grinding this stuff, and then I'll get you guys back here in a second. All right, so we're finishing up here. All right, we got all this ground in, I don't know, I'd say about 5-ish minutes or so. It don't take too long to grind all this stuff down. And then you just wait for it to run out a little bit. All right, so it slowed down and we were able to get as much out of there as possible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this disc, all right, to the coarser disc, or sorry, the finer disc. This is the coarse, and I'll show you the difference between the two here in a second. So that's the plate we just used. We're going to this one next, all right? So we're back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just load up this hopper, all right, because you want this stuff to start going quickly. And we'll have to stop every once in a while to reload, all right, but it is a pretty simple thing to get going here, all right. Now you will need your plunger on this just to be able to extrude this stuff a little bit quicker. And as you can see, it's coming out a lot finer and a lot more consistent than the other grind. This is pretty much what you get. This type of grind is what you get in the stores when you go and buy those packs of ground beef. All right, so I got this ice pack under there now. The original one I had is not the gel kind that I thought it was, but we got that on there, and so we're ready to continue to grind here. Like I said earlier, gloves, you might go through a lot of them, but it is a lot easier to be able to take them off, do what you need to do, and get back to what you got as the main priority than it is to stop, wash your hands, and continue on doing other things. All right, so we're gonna continue to grind this all out. All right, as my feed tray gets empty, I just take handfuls and throw it back up here. All right, and we go just like that. All right, so I noticed that we're not extruding the way we should be. And usually what that means is, especially with this finer disc, that there is a buildup of sinew. All right, and so we just take, there we go. Taking this thing out is not easy, I'll tell you that. So once we get it out, now we just try and get the cutter out. All right, clean the cutter off. All right, just like that. Makes things a little bit easier when you go to start back up again. Now we pull the spindle out and we start taking this material off. All right, and if there's any large sections of sinuate that we're smashing into this bottom part of it, we just take that out, take the sinew that we found off the piece, throw it away. Now, I can tell you right now that this is getting a little too hot. The rest of the shaft is still pretty cold, so just keep an eye on that, especially in this second portion of grinding to where you're going finer. Like I said, it takes the longest amount of time to do. So once we get that in there, got that. There we go. Now, one of the things I will say is don't make this piece too tight on there, all right? Finger tight is fine. If you try and crank it down, it's going to seize up on there just because of all the pressure, all right? So just be mindful of all that. I'm gonna continue grinding this now, and I'll bring you guys back when I'm done. All right, so we are done grinding. As you can see, we have our entire tub full of the ground meat. All right, at this point, whatever you're doing with this, go ahead do. If you're making it in a sausage, put your seasonings in there, mix it up, all that kind of stuff. I will not be doing that in this video. It'll be a separate video. I still have to grind the pork, and then once I'm done grinding that pork butt, I gotta get cleaned up and head to the airport to pick up my wife. And then next weekend, I'll be doing that video and showing you guys how I make sausage, all right? So with that being said, this is an LEM. It comes as the grinder and comes with the sausage stuffing equipment. So they're just the plastic extruders. I don't know the actual name for it. Extruder sounds right. But it attaches to here instead of the grinding plates. And then you put your casing on there and feed it into your casings, and you can make your sausages and brats and all that stuff just like that. All right. So I love this thing. We've had this since 2019. The largest amount of grinding we've done at one time with this thing was 50 pounds. We did have to take a few breaks to cool everything down several times during this process. The longest period of it was just like the second grind, where it's a lot finer. All right. If you're having problems with it extruding and grinding properly, take it all out, clean it out, make sure it's not got any long strands of sinew just caught around it and stuff like that. Do what you got to do to make sure your equipment's running properly and smoothly. All right. So if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments. All right. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one. God bless.